Microsoft Flight Simulator version 1. This build was a release of 3D articles bought by Microsoft to build what they called a flight simulator. They ported the simulator to IBM PCs, claiming if flying your IBM PC got any more realistic, you'd need a license. The first sim was equipped with a full color display, variable weather and time of day, and an advanced coordinate system. Nowadays, these features are must-haves to create a good flight sim. About 2 years later, Microsoft ported their second version of the sim to IBM PCs. This version had few major improvements but did include changes to graphics and adding to a more precise experience overall. Joystick and mouse input were added, as well as support for RGB monitors. The new version added scenery to the entire United States, and over the next year, more scenery was added, gradually covering the whole United States, including Hawaii, Japan, and parts of Europe. Nearly 4 years later, Microsoft released their third iteration of their sim. This version added additional aircraft and airports to an already mapped area of the second sim. The new sim also came with improved high-res graphics. There were now a total of 3 simulated aircrafts: the Gates Learjet, Cessna Skyline, and Sopwith Camel. Flight Sim 3 allowed users to view multiple angles of the aircraft, and new technology made expanding the world possible with user-made add-ons. Only a year later, in 1989, the fourth version of the sim was introduced to the public. This sim had dynamic scenery and detailed roads, bridges, and buildings. The main feature of the sim was on the user's side. The new features of the sim allowed users to build their own aircraft and scenery with ease. This made way for new planes and much more detailed scenery. Just passing a decade since release, the fifth sim was launched, and with it, brand new textures adding a new level of realism. This did hurt the community designers though, because all of their previous scenery and aircraft would look out of place in the new textured world. Along with the textures, new audio and new technical systems were made and replaced the decade-old technology, propelling the sim to more modern times. In 1995, a new update to the fifth version was made, allowing for scenery libraries, faster performance satellite imagery, and lots of weather effects. In 1996, they ported the sim to Windows 95, and along with this move, frame rates were drastically improved, better haze, and more aircraft, as well as more 3D buildings were added. This new version added major airports outside the United States for the first time. Only a short year after the port to Windows 95, Flight Sim 98 was released. This version included a helicopter, along with improved graphics, airports, and scenery. The overall airport count went from 300 to 3,000. This version was the first to really take advantage of the new 3D graphics cards. This version was also the first to support additional hardware like the Microsoft Sidewinder force feedback joystick for the simulator. Only months after its launch, FS98 had shipped 1 million copies worldwide. On the turn of the century, Microsoft released Microsoft Flight Simulator 2000. This version was not well perceived by players. The sim had made minor graphical improvements, but demanded very high-end software to run. And even on top-of-the-line equipment, the frame rates lagged. They did add in 3D terrain, allowing the ground to change in elevation. This change made most scenery obsolete due to lacking this feature. On the more positive side, they added 17,000 new airports, now totaling over 20,000. They also included the Concorde and Boeing 777. Another important feature that was added was a proper GPS system, allowing for more realistic flight than ever before. 2 years later, Microsoft would bring the franchise out of the dirt and back into the light with Flight Simulator 2002. Not only did the sim add major graphical improvements, it added air traffic control, AI aircraft, and an option to limit frame rate to help improve performance overall. On the 100-year anniversary of the invention of the aircraft, Microsoft released Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004, A Century of Flight. This version was a big step, adding in historic aircraft like the Ford Trimotor and DC-3. These were added to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Wright brothers' first flight. True 3D clouds were added along with better ATC, AI, and virtual interactive cockpits, a major part of any modern simulator. In the fall of 2006, Microsoft released their final release of Microsoft Flight Sim, named FSX or Flight Simulator X. This game was the largest improvement from any of the other simulators, with better multiplayer support, allowing two players to fly the same plane, and player-controlled ATC. FSX had less aircraft than FS 2004, but introduced new aircraft such as the 737-800, A320, Orion, and Bombardier CRJ-700. The version was very computer demanding, and as technology improved, its needs were met. As the years went by, people figured it was the last flight sim Microsoft would release, being that they had not released a simulator in 14 years. But all of a sudden, at 2019's E3 convention, Microsoft announced Flight Simulator 2020.